afternoon to this august audience. And I've seen two really nice presentations, one from ma'am and another from sir as well. And I think what I'm going to share today about the use of data will really sum up and really add on to what the some speakers before me have shared. Just to start with, I will I'll share a short story. Let's go back 15 years, and to this city called Varanasi. And there was this boy in Varanasi, young chap studying in grade 6 or 7. Has had a nice boyish charm to him, and was really excited about things. He was curious, wanted to do well, wanted to excel in sports, wanted to do well in school. Used to be a very regular student, and he used to do well in class. If you ask his teacher, uh, she would be really excited that, okay, this boy is in my class. Uh, his parent always knew that he was doing well. He was excited about his studies. He went to this school. Let's call this school ABC. And something peculiar about that school that time was the school really had one assessment. That assessment was at the end of the year, and it happened once in the entire year, right? So when the exams came around, the boy studied hard. He put in the hours that were needed. He went in, he gave the exams confident, and the result day arrived. Now, when he went on to collect his result, his father was someone who was a big maths enthusiast, right? And every day when he came back home after school, his father used to ask him that, what happened today in the maths classroom? What did you do? Did you answer the questions? And he would always, describe the situation. He would speak with curiosity. But when the result day arrived and he got his marks were 68, and he wasn't happy. He wasn't happy because he's put in a lot of effort. And when reflecting on those marks, when those marks came in, that is when the teacher, the child, as well as the parent realized that something had gone wrong throughout the year, right? So that mark, the 68 mark out of 100, was the actual data that told them that there is so that we need to look back, we need to really see what has gone wrong, right? So data is something which is not an anecdote, which is not an antidote. Data is something which is not a solution, right? Data is something which is not a supplement to effective teaching. Data is something which is only a tool, right? It is a tool through which, it's a lens through which you can look at what's happening, and through that lens you can look to improve your practices as a teacher. You can look to improve your practice as a school. So I'm going to share today a sort of a framework that we use at our school to really look at data and how we have changed and evolved, I would say, our teaching practices to increase the student outcomes, to increase student scores, and how we've done that over the years. I'm going to share that. Alongside that, I will also share not just the framework, but I will also share some actual data and information from one of my schools, and just to give you an idea of what actual data in education would look like, and how you can use that data to enhance student learning. right? So this is something which is a data cycle that we look at. A cycle would have 5 phases. The blue ones are the concepts, the conceptual phases. The orange ones are the actual practical things that we do, the practices that we do. So let's just dig deeper into them, since we've now realized that if we do not collect data timely, or and if we just collect data once at the end of the year, there's a lot can go wrong, and even the best of the children might not do so well because we haven't catered to their needs frequently and timely, right? So let's start from the first phase of the data cycle, which is actually collecting the data. These are the numbers that you're collecting from the student works. There can be different types of data. You could collect attendance data. You could collect assignment submission data. So it is really important that as a school, one realizes that where we are at and where we want to go. And that will really tell us what is the data that we want to collect. Once we know what is the data we want to collect, then further we will know that, okay, how are we going to use this data? What is this data going to inform, right? So the next phase is the information phase, the phase where raw data is actually moved on to information. So say, putting on numbers to something like how many assignments got submitted on time. So that actually becomes information, and once you put those information into graphics or easily readable formats, that becomes very, very powerful information which schools can use going further. And the next phase is really the knowledge phase. This knowledge phase is where you actually interpret data, where you see that, okay, this is what my marks of the exam look like, and this is what the teacher did before the exam, right? This is what the instructional practice the teacher did or the school did at the class level or the school level, and because of this practice that the teacher followed, this is the outcome. So when you relate the input to the output, by that relation, you get a lot of knowledge of what's actually happening around the data. And that is really, that is the third phase of the data cycle. The next one is the decision. With this knowledge that you get by relating the input and the output of data, you're actually making ongoing decisions, and you're actually changing you're not really changing, but adjusting your practice. You're adjusting your practice with small little tweaks to know that, okay, what did not go well and how I can do that. So for example, if we go back to that example of a boy from Varanasi, if there would have been some sort of formative assessments or even a summative assessment somewhere in the third month, or so if the teacher would have related that, okay, he's doing well in class, he's understanding everything, but he's not scoring well, and they would have actually identified that what could have gone wrong. Maybe he's not putting in the steps, maybe he's not able to give in the answer, so there could be a lot of things that are going wrong, but data is actually a point which will give you a tool to reflect on your journey as an educator, which will inform your further decision making. And once you have a decision, then that is when you go on to the action or the implementation phase, and you can implement those data-driven decisions going further. Now, it's easy to understand these phases, but it's very, very difficult to really change this into implementation within the school setting, because generally as a society, we go on anecdotes while taking decision, right? We do not look at data. We generally go on anecdotes. Say we implemented a new teaching pedagogy. We speak to 3 teachers, 4 teachers, we speak to 5, 7 children, and maybe once or twice, and we feel that, okay, this was good, the children enjoyed it, now let's replicate it, right? That is something that most of us do as educators, which which is something which really backfires a lot of times. I'm sure some of you in the audience might relate to this if you've implemented a new progressive pedagogy, especially in COVID times, and you're not capturing data, you're not really sharing or appreciating those small successes. If you're not doing that, it will backfire at some point of time. You will get a resistance from the teaching community. You will sometimes get a resistance from the parent community because they don't know what's happening. So it's really, really important that data needs to be captured at every step. Teachers, parents need to know what successful data really looks like. And for that to happen, we really need to look at a school, and we need to look at what are the components that we need to have to really implement data successfully. So these are the three areas, like infrastructure, culture, and practices. So one of the biggest important things while implementing or incorporating data in school decision making is the culture, the school leadership. Whether the leader really models that, whether the leader really takes decisions using data or not, or the leader takes decisions with hearsay, anecdotes, speaking to two teachers, three teachers, a few parents, and coming on to a decision, okay, this is not happening, right? So a lot of time we do that because capturing data is difficult. You need to put in systems in place. You need to, a lot of times we wake up at the end moment and we feel that, okay, we need to speak to a few people. Okay, this is not working. Let's just change things around and see what's happening, right? So that it doesn't work that way. And a school does not improve or goes on a path of continuous improvement that way. So it's really important for the school leadership to concentrate on data in their own decision making, to make that data available. A lot of the times we only have data available for end of year assessments or our half yearly exams or our pre-midterm assessments, right? But these are, like we saw the example from the boy from Varanasi, these are often, it gets very late at the year, because when you act on it, if you're not again measuring it, you will. So for example, let me give you an example. If you're traveling from Mumbai to Nashik, and it's a 3.5 hour journey. If you do not know the path, you might get wavered. If you don't see the milestones, you will not reach Nashik. Maybe you've traveled for 4 hours, but you reach some other destination, right? If you don't see the milestones. So the data that you capture really acts as the milestones on your path and tells you that where are you actually going. It helps you create that environment by celebrating small successes, that okay, that the entire group is on the right path. It tells the teachers, the parents, everybody that okay, the school is heading in the right direction. So the second culture that's really important is continuous improvement. So we really need to inculcate that culture within the school, that at no point of time the school is good enough. We are always aiming for higher and striving for higher, and there is actually no end goal. There is no finish line to that continuous improvement cycle, right? And the third one is orientation and alignment. Regularly creating that culture of we need to align to the vision regularly, or creating that culture of identifying what are our loopholes and aligning ourselves to the school vision. So that's where we look at the importance of culture at a school setting, or at an organizational setting, when we want to use data regularly. The second thing in which a lot of schools, especially in India, we do not invest much here, which is the infrastructure. So it's really important that we have a lot of infrastructure around capturing of data. We need to capture high quality data. We need to create data literacy for teachers. One fine day, like a lot of our initiatives, sometimes, especially in Indian education, I would see that, it happens like, technology happened in COVID times. One fine day, we want to implement something new, and there's lack of training, there is, lack of resources that the teachers are given, and the teachers are asked to do something which is absolutely not possible, not their cup of tea. So it's really important to create that data literacy in the teaching body. The teachers need to know the school's, resources. They need to know, okay, what good data looks like, how to read data, how to analyze data, and all of those things. It's really important that when you go on a data journey, or you have this sort of data cycles running in the school, there needs to be a data facilitator, someone who knows his way around, and someone who can help teachers whenever they need support. It's really important to create goals. A school needs to create goals, and those goals need to have data embedded. So for example, like ma'am talked about having cooperative learning, right, in students. When you implement such a strategy, it's really important to know, okay, when cooperative learning would be implemented, how would it look like? What is the data that I will have for student learning, right? You need to ask yourself those questions. Once you ask yourself those questions, that is when you will create these goals. That is when these goals will have, okay, the thermometer to measure whether cooperative learning implementation was successful in my school or not. So these are two organizational components at the organizational level. As education leaders, one needs to set up if you want to, you really use data to enhance student learning. The second component is what are the practices that the school is really going on for. So something which is really important is using data as a tool for reflection. So say when the teacher saw that this boy scored 68 out of 100, if the teacher asks himself or herself the right questions and reflects that why did the boy score 68, that will actually help the teacher uncover what's not happening right? The teacher needs to really question his or her practice, and the child needs to question himself that what he did not do. The parent needs to question them. So data really acts as as a tool which which enables reflection. So we need to make sure that these reflection routines are put in place in the school. It is happening frequently and timely. If it happens at the year end, and so then it's actually not useful, because in the year there's so much happening, you lose track, right? So it's really important. So something that we do is we do monthly data meetings with teachers, right? So every month there's a 15-minute, 20-minute meeting with every teacher, wherein we look at the student data, how are the students performing in the class, and then we ask some key questions. We have a protocol, and we ask those key questions to the teachers. So without us as leaders telling them what needs to be done, we don't tell them what needs to be done. Our questions are important here. The questions that we ask allow them to probe, to think that, okay, what needs to be done further, because now I have data. I'm not, there's nothing that's hearsay. There's nothing that, okay, this person came in for observation and said it is not working, but I feel it's working. Now I have actual concrete data, right? So that's really important to have those reflection routines in place. It's really important to sit down as a team and analyze. It's really important to look at data at a school level. Okay, if I'm doing cooperative learning, how is it at a school level? How is the school doing? Then look at the class level and look at those transitions, compare those transitions. It's really important to do that. Once you do those comparisons, only then you will uncover, okay, what's actually happening in the school. The data will start speaking then. It's really important to share the data with everybody, and that's the feedback loop. So making that transparency while you're having that data, keeping that data transparent, making sure that everybody, all stakeholders, parents can see it, teachers can see it, and it's not hidden. We don't share, okay, this as a school leader, this data that is there really interests me and it will help me go further, right? But this thing that's happening good, I don't want to share it, because then it might not happen so well, and people might feel that there might be complacency that kicks in. So it's really important to share every data with transparency and develop that trust in the team. So this is something that I've already shared about how to create that culture. Okay, so this is some actual data that I wanted to show. This is something that we record, okay, that which are the students who are falling in which buckets in our school, and on this data then we reflect with our teaching community 1:1 that what can we do. This is month on month data that we record at our school and see how the children are doing, which are the buckets that the children are falling, and how can we support these children. This is again some data of what is the number of assignments that the teachers are giving month on month. And actual knowledge really comes when you relate these two data. You relate the number of assignments that the teachers are giving and relate the data to the student achievements. Once you relate these two, you will realize, okay, this so and so teacher is giving the optimal number of assignments, and that's why the student achievements are going up. Someone who's giving more assignments might, it's not directly needed that, okay, if you give more assignments, student achievement will go up, right? So it's really important to create that knowledge by interpreting these two data and analyzing all of that, right? So again, I've spoken about infrastructure. I've spoken about, it's really important to have that sort of infrastructure at the school level. Otherwise, magic cannot happen. Without the resources, without the training, data cannot be used at a school-wide level, right? Again, this is something what is the number of assignments that the teachers are giving month on month, and how we relate that, right? This is again a data about how many teachers have corrected the assignments on time, how many haven't corrected the assignments on time, and again, this data is not to question the teacher or compare that so-and-so teacher is not doing well. If that happens, your purpose as a school leader would get defeated. What's really important is when you look at the data, you look at the data with non-bias. You look at the data and you use questions of reflection and which guide the teacher's thinking. It's important not to blame, otherwise the system would get polluted and you will not actually get data, right? There'll be various ways. So if you, if some of your school principals, if you see that, if you start telling the teacher, okay, you've got to get 75%, sometimes you will see that the corrections become easy or questions become easy, right? So it's really important that you use the data with transparency and develop that trust in the team. That's when the data starts becoming powerful. So this is again some example of what is the sort of data we are collecting. This is the marks for assignments, and some example of that. Again, this is a dashboard that we have for how are the sections performing, and we do not wait for data for quarterly assessments. We are doing it on a month-on-month basis, such that it's timely, and there's timely intervention that really happens, right? So there's a heat map that tells us, okay, which sections, which subjects are not doing so well, and which is where we need to intervene and support the teacher with some advice or input, or whatever needs to be done where. Again, so this is about the practices at the school level that I've shared. This is your attendance data that we gather, and again, through this data we look at which are the days where attendance is not happening. We need to, so especially during the online scenario, what we started doing when we started gathering attendance data, we saw that, okay, maybe a Thursday or a Friday is when the attendance is really dropping, and we started implementing some practices like a sunglasses day on a Friday, and every child sits in the class with sunglasses, or maybe a community breakfast day. Every morning children come in with breakfast, and they have breakfast together in the first class. So when you have these data with you, and the exact places where you need to intervene, then you can really be creative and use all the creativity that you have to address those situations. So it's really important to have the data accurately and timely. Again, looking at the attendance grade wise so looking at the school level, and again going down and looking deeper at a student level or a class level is really, really important. So here this told us that a lot of some of the students are logging in sometimes in the online class, attending 5 minutes, and then just popping out of the class, right? So with this data we were able to then speak to the students, identify whether what were the issues, whether they had network problems, they were not engaged in the class, what were really the issues. So data really helps us identify what are the actual loopholes in the school and how we can take decisions to adjust decision making and then further improve the school. So again, this is all different sort of attendance data that we capture, right? So this is an outliers data which tells us, okay, which are the students who are not attending enough classes online, who are attending classes, and then we use this data to have conversations with parents, because unless and until you have data like this, you cannot, the parent would say, or maybe the child would say, I was there in class, and you can't really say, share anything about that. So it's really important to have very, very detailed, granular level data for us to know. So once you have this data, you can, about attendance, you can really ask yourself these questions, that what are the instructional implications? Why is attendance falling low in so-and-so class? So maybe, sometimes you will see that, okay, grade 7, all sections are doing great in attendance, but grade 4 is not doing great. And maybe you can identify that, okay, grade 7, the teachers are really putting in the effort, but maybe grade 4 is more of lecture and, more of like the sage on the stage sort of approach that's happening. So that will help you identify. Sometimes if you're in physical school, you would know that, okay, like, ma'am shared that children are not coming on time, and if you collect that data, only then you will know that, okay, children are coming in late, right? So it's really important to ask yourself those questions and use data as a tool for reflection. Again, just to end, we need to measure what matters. We need to collect data for what matters. What is it that we want to do? Make sure that data is shared transparently with everyone, all stakeholders. Once we do that, we will start earning trust. Make sure that data is not being misused. And like I shared the example from going from Mumbai to Nashik, you need to know, if you're a traveler, you need to know where are you at. You need to know, okay, I'm in Mumbai, I'm at Taj Lands End, and I want to head to Nashik. That is my destination, right? Have a clear vision of where you are, where you want to go, and data will only act as the milestones, but they'll be very, very effective to tell you where you're at in your journey, and if you're going wrong, what do you need to really adjust or tweak in your practice as a school or as a teacher to, increase student learning. So that was about it, and I hope it was useful for some of you to get on that data journey for your school. Thank you.